With an open world economy, making money in old school RuneScape can very quickly turn into your primary focus. In this video, I'm going to cover some of my favorite early game moneymakers. I'm going to go over the basics of each method, the requirements, the GP rates, I'm going to cover some of the things that the wiki misses, and most importantly, I'm going to walk you through how to do it. But before we go into the individual methods, let me cover some of the basics. First off, let's boil down the function of money in old school RuneScape. It's basically to buy gear to then use to make more money more quickly, to in turn then buy better gear to then make more money more quickly, and so on and so forth. It might seem obvious, but as your account gets higher leveled and you become more skilled as a player, you have more options to make more money more quickly in more places. Just look at the wiki here. All of these top money makers are over 10 mil GP per hour, but they also require you to have max combat, max gear, and to be pretty good at the game to perform them optimally. Max gear costs an extortionate amount of money right now, but luckily you don't really need to buy max gear at level 50 because you can't even wield it. My suggestion is that in the early game, you should be focusing on just making enough money for the upgrades and the gear that you need right now, because the growth at this level is at such a speed that you're going to quickly outgrow most of these money makers and move on to something better, like, I don't know, Zulrah, Vorkath, something more like mid-game, which I'll be making a video on next. Like and subscribe, I'm on my comeback arc. Anyways, just don't try to make a billion GP with the methods in this video. Another thing that I should put out there for the newer players is that one of the best ways to continue having money is by not losing it. There's a lot of people in RuneScape who are out to get you. RuneScape has been just plagued by gambling and scams since its very inception. At this point, all legitimate forms of gambling have been outlawed. The only gambling that I've seen in a while is through bots at the Grand Exchange. Surprise, surprise, they're rigged. They're gonna scam you if you bet high enough. Who could have seen that one coming? Don't give anyone something for nothing in the hope that you might get a windfall down the road. All scams and lures are predicated on you being greedy. All the current lures either use social engineering in some way like that to get you, or they're gonna try to get you to help them anti-lure a lure, but in fact, they are luring you. It all depends on you knowing that you are currently being lured, but going through with it anyways. It happens to people all the time. Do not try to anti-lure them. You're gonna lose this every single time. You're playing their game, they're better at it. One other massive waste of gold at this level is buying bonds. For the uninitiated, a bond allows a person to buy 14 days of membership using in-game gold. Sounds great, right? No real money spent. Let's do an example. At this level, imagine you're making 500k an hour. A bond currently costs 13 million GP. This means that you would have to grind for 26 hours to get 2 weeks of membership, 52 hours for less than a full month, which currently costs $14, 10 pounds, 12.5 euros, or 20 CAD, my favorite cryptocurrency. This is probably gonna piss some of you off, but I gotta be real with you. Just put this on a credit card. If you can't, you should really be spending more time finding a job and less time playing RuneScape, because 54 hours for 14 bucks is fucking insane. Cool, now that I've lost half of you, let's get into the moneymakers. For this one, we're going to be shopscaping. What I mean by shopscaping is we're going to be buying an item from a shop or an in-game NPC, then turning around to sell it to other players on the Grand Exchange. This works because the item in the shop is going to be cheaper than what we're selling it to other players for. Endgame players are going to be more than willing to spend more money for the convenience of buying it from the Grand Exchange instead of the shops themselves. Before we start, one thing that's going to make this a lot easier is downloading the menu entry swapper plugin from RuneLite. You're going to want to go to the hamburger menu here, go to UI swap, and then do shop buy shift click buy 50. You might as well set shift click for sell to 52. What this allows us to do is to hold down our shift key, which would then change our left click option to buy 50. So I can just left click once and buy a full inventory in one click. The best part about this method is that you could just start doing this immediately. If you're brand new, fresh off Tutorial Island, make sure that you get your 10k from the Stronghold security, then it's off to work. We're gonna head over first to the Varrock Lumberyard in the northeast corner of Varrock, and we're gonna be buying nails. So once you're here, what you're going to want to do is just trade the sawmill operator here. Then we're going to buy out all of the nails. Once we buy out all the nails, we're going to go to our world switcher here, and we're going to hop worlds and just rinse and repeat. While steel nails are obviously the best ones here, the profit margin's the largest, you make the most per nail, they're also going to be the lowest supply. So it's very worth you buying out all the nails, because even with the bronze ones, you're tripling your money. There's one thing I do want you to keep in mind, that there is a limited amount of stock per shop. It does slowly restock throughout the day, but if there's a bunch of other players doing this, the stock in the shops are going to be a little bit bought out and you're not going to make as much money. Anyways, let me start a timer. We're going to let this one rip and see how much money we can make. Cool. I have ran out of my 10k GP that we got from the Stronghold security, and it took me a grand total of 1 minute and 45 seconds. Let's head to the GE. Running over here almost took as long as it took to get all the nails, but let's sell everything off here. I'm gonna insta sell it for much less just so we can get this over with really quickly. I recommend you do the same so you can get back to buying more nails. And after selling everything off in about 2.5 minutes of work, we turned our 10k into 50k. To be honest with you, I got extremely lucky. I found a world that like wasn't bought out at all. It had like 600 steel nails in it, so this went way quicker than it normally would. That would usually take you probably like 7 or 8 more hops, so I think this should take you probably like 4 or 5 minutes to do this. Once you have a little bit more starting cash, I recommend you buying Barrock teleports. You can use these at any level, so just buy the teleport tabs here, and this is going to allow us to repeat this much quicker. Okay, somebody else or somebody's else, maybe a bunch of bots, is definitely doing this right now. This took me close to 20 minutes to go through that 50k, and after selling everything off, we have 200k. Pretty decent. I don't think I'd be able to do this for all too much longer just because there's so much competition out there. What we're going to do next, I've already spent a bunch of time on this. All of the other Shopscape methods kind of follow a similar thing. You know, you buy from the shop, you sell it on the Grand Exchange. You guys get it. Let me show you a couple more profitable shops, and then we'll get on to the next one. Next up, we have Iron Ore. This one's really good. The wiki has this over 700k per hour. You're going to want the Giant Dwarf quest completed. The base cost on these is 25. You're going to be able to sell them for 127, and you're going to want to bring stamina potions. You're going to have to run between the bank and this guy quite a bit, and the longer you're running, the more money you're going to be able to make. There's a bunch of other ones on the wiki, but I think Nails is the best, so you might as well just stick with that. I'm a huge fan of moneymakers that train your skills because you're getting more than just the raw GP out of it, which is really important, especially in the early game. To make Driftnets, you're going to want 26 crafting. That's the only hard requirement. In order to make it worthwhile for you, you're going to want 29 construction and the Bon Voyage quest completed. The reason you need to do the quest and have the construction is so you can build the museum camp here on Fossil Island. The loom is right there and the bank is right here, which makes it much quicker to make a lot more Driftnets. To do the method, it's super simple. All you got to do is withdraw jute fibers. It's spelled kind of weird and all Britishy, and then run over here to the loom. Once you're at the loom, all you're going to want to do is create the Driftnets. And then once you're done, just run back over to the bank and rinse and repeat. So the wiki has this as 600 GP gained per net, which if we add up 2 jute fibers per net, I'm not getting that. I insta-bought and insta-sold all this, so I guess if you like slow-bought and slow-sold, you might be able to get close to that, but I just don't think that's currently very accurate. You can make 300, 400 GP per net right now, and you're getting some experience with it, so I still think it could be worth doing for you, but it's not nearly as good as the wiki says. The wiki also has this at 1,100 per hour. I'm going to call that 1,000 per hour to be more realistic, making this method roughly 400 to 500k per hour. Dailies traditionally in video games are things that you can complete once per day. They're usually better than just normal stuff in the game, hence the day-long cooldown. For the usage in this video, I'm just going to be covering activities that have a cooldown. There's several of these that are going to be extremely beneficial early on, and they actually snowball themselves a little bit, so I recommend getting started ASAP. The first one that I wanted to talk to you about is birdhouses. These are one of my favorites. You can start doing these at level 5 crafting and level 5 hunter. The only quest that you need is the Bon Voyage quest, which I guess does need a few quests itself, but it's not too big of a deal. This activity involves you creating birdhouse traps, setting them up on Fossil Island, and every 50 minutes you're able to run through and dismantle them, receiving experience and bird nests. Each run only takes about 50 seconds and is going to net you a varying amount of bird's nests, which will depend on both your hunter level and the level of birdhouse that you're able to create. The best part about these is that they also provide a good amount of passive hunter experience when you compare it to the short amount of time that you're spending. You're going to want a dig site pendant, link down in the description of how to get this. Make sure you do get it, not worth doing without it. You're going to want a chisel, a hammer, 4 of the logs to the best birdhouse that you're able to create. You're going to want some junk seeds. There's a link to the wiki which has the cheapest ones. I just use barley since I bought these ages ago. They're super cheap. It's definitely worthwhile. And then you're also going to want 4 clockworks for your first time. Optionally, you can wear a strong rabbit's foot. This is going to give you a better chance of getting bird's nests that have bird eggs in them. It likely says in the wiki guide that I mentioned earlier, but you're going to want to make your way to the house on the hill here and use your dig site pendant on this strange machine here to unlock the teleport. Let's go through a live run here. We're going to use our dig site pendant to go to the Fossil Island, which is where we're at already. Then you're going to run over here to the mush tree, and to start things off, I like to start off with a Verdant Valley. Then here in the valley, you're going to see these 2 birdhouse spots. I already have bird's nests, but you know, if you didn't, it would look just like that. So what you're going to want to do is use your chisel or hammer on one of the birdhouses. It's going to start making them since this is the first time. You're just going to pop that there on the spot. fill it with seeds, and just go on to the next one. Once you're done, go back to the tree, and we're going to go to the mushroom meadow. The first bird's house is right here to the north. Then when you're done with that one, I like to run all the way south to the last spot. And here's the last spot right here by the swamp. Let's do a quick little price check. 25K for like 40, 50 seconds of work. Totally worth it. And to be honest with you, this is a pretty small haul. Next up, we're going to be farming herbs. Herbs are used to make potions and can net you a pretty decent profit due to the consumable nature and just the high cost of herbs, even at a low farming level. The idea with this moneymaker is to grow the most profitable herb possible in as many patches as you have access to with as many bonuses as possible in order to maximize your profit. The cooldown is roughly every hour and a half. There's some things that can change that. Not for you to worry about because RuneLite actually has a built-in timer that can just let you know when all your patches are ready to harvest so you don't have to guess and check. Personally, I just recommend throwing these in between other grinds that you're doing. I recommend not just sitting there watching a timer. That sounds pretty miserable. The best part about these is that they're growing while you're doing whatever else it is that you are doing. Now, you should probably be asking yourself at this point, what seed should you be growing? And that really just depends on your level. There's a page on the wiki that I will link down in the description below that's super helpful for this. The wiki overall is just super helpful for literally everything. The old school RuneScape wiki has by far and away the best wiki that I've seen from any game that I've played. And honestly, you kind of can't go wrong here. I would just pick the one with the highest profit that you can do. Even if you're level 9, you can do Guams. You're making some profit. It's not a lot, but you're getting some experience with that, which is going to snowball you into things like Rainar Weeds here, which are making nearly 38k per seed on. There's a ton of different unlocks that allow you to get larger yields. You'll get most of those later on just through your diaries and everything, but when you're first starting off, absolutely make sure that you're using Ultra Compost. It might seem expensive at first, but it's absolutely going to pay for itself, and then I would just focus on unlocking more patches since this is going to be your biggest increase in yield, and then add more modifiers through your quests and achievement diaries later. Next, I want to introduce you guys to a passive income opportunity, and I hope YouTube doesn't like censor this video for saying those words. What I'm actually talking about is the Managing Miscellanea minigame, which isn't really a minigame, but it's more of just like an activity. It's a passive income opportunity. After completion of the Throne of Miscellanea quest, you're able to manage a kingdom and then reap the rewards of your subjects' labor. This can be further expanded by an entire 50% after the completion of the Royal Trouble quest, which does have slightly higher requirements than most of the other stuff so far in this guide. The idea here is that you invest money into a coffer, and then every day your subjects will collect resources for you based off of your approval rating and the resources that you choose. You can raise your approval rating by doing various activities around Miscellanea. Mining, I think, is technically the fastest, but personally, I just chop the teaks since you can kind of AFK this. It's a lot more chiller. It's not super important that you keep it topped up to 100% every day, coming back here once a week, or honestly, I leave this go for like months at a time. You shouldn't do that, but once a week is totally fine here. Currently, the most profitable resources are herbs, followed by coal. I recommend checking this calculator here on the wiki to figure out which is best for you at the current time that it is, since prices fluctuate on everything. Personally, I do wood instead for the extra possibility of birds' eggs from birds' nests. And the last one of these cooldown activities isn't actually a moneymaker, but I think it is super worthwhile. It's the Tears of Guthix. If you do the Tears of Guthix quest, it's going to teach you all about this. It allows you to get experience in your lowest skill once per week. It's really simple. Just collect the blue water, avoid the green water. It's as easy as that. Way back in the day, when I first started playing, the wilderness was billed to us as this deep, dark, dangerous land full of riches. And these riches were exclusively for those who were willing to brave the threat of PvP. Well, back in the day, we might have been content grabbing a steel plate body. Things have changed, and the rewards have changed with them. Meet the Wilderness Agility course. This is some old-ass content, but it's been given a facelift recently. The only hard requirement here is 52 agility, but if you do want to make money here, you're gonna have to pay the man 150k to gain access to the dispenser. To actually do the moneymaker, super duper simple. All you gotta do is run laps, which I get totally sucks, but if you're broke and you need agility experience, this is actually really good. You should expect around 40,000 experience per hour, and you get one ticket per lap, which you then trade in eventually for experience. This realistically adds like 10k on top of that for a total of 50k per hour. For GP, you get better loot the more laps in a row that you complete. This incentivizes you to become a loot pinata for PKers and stay there as long as humanly possible to make as much money as you can. At peak efficiency, after having already been there for roughly an hour, you should be cranking out over 2 mil per hour, which is honestly pretty nuts for just 52 in a skill. For your first hour though, the wiki has it averaged out to 1.3 mil, which is still the highest amount that we have in this video so far. The biggest most glaring downside to this is that you're going to be in deep wilderness with almost no escape, and anyone can just come and take your loot from you at any time. Best of luck to you. There's some protection clans out there that you can join up to protect you while you do the agility. I'm not personally affiliated with any one, so I'm not going to advertise one of them over a different service. Please feel free to comment your favorite one down below for the use of the people. Keeping with the wilderness theme, we're going to be headed over to Zombie Pirates. For this one, I recommend being at least able to wield a dragon scimitar. You're going to want to have Protect from Magic unlocked. You're going to want to complete the Wilderness Medium Diaries. This changes your chance of obtaining loot to 50% instead of 15%. You can still do it without it, but it's going to be significantly worse. For your setup, I strongly recommend the Salve Amulet E from the Haunted Mine quest, then just your best melee weapon. Dragon Sim is really good here, but upgrade and downgrade all of this as you see fit. Prayer bonus is also really strong here. You're going to be praying the entire time and realize that you are going to be in the wilderness, so don't risk things that you can't afford to lose. For your inventory, I recommend bringing a super combat, some blighted super restores, and then some blighted food. Blighted isn't necessary, but it is way cheaper, which is good for making money, right? You're going to want a burning amulet to get there, some sort of teleport out. It's not above 20 wilderness, so any standard teleport works. And then you're also going to want a looting bag. If you don't have a looting bag, don't worry about it. They drop it at a 1 out of 3, so you're going to get one pretty quick here. To do the actual method, super duper simple. What we're going to do is teleport up to the Chaos Temple. It's 15 wilderness, so not too scary. And you're going to want to immediately protect from magic. And the guys that we're after here are these zombie pirates. You can go close to the altar to restore your prayer, but if you do want to kill more of them, there's actually a lot more of the pirates outside of there. So do whatever you see fit, drink your potion, start killing the dudes, and then just collect your loot. I like to have my looting bag open so that when there is a loot, you just click on it and it goes directly into your looting bag. Oh shoot, we already have a PKer. Look at that. Isn't that great? All right, I kind of want to test this one. If you're familiar with my channel, I don't really trust the wiki rates that much, especially for things when I'm trying to make this for a lower level. So I'm going to do 15 minutes of these. I'm going to set a timer and then we'll see how much loot we have and then multiply that out by 4 to see what you should expect to get from this. Obviously, I'm maxed, so your stats are going to be less than this, which is why I brought brews, and I'm going to be brewing myself down to 80 stats, since stats should be around where you're at if you're like mid-60s combat and you're using a super combat potion. Man, the alarm is terrifying. That thing's so loud. Let me turn that off. I'm gonna have 413k with 5 keys though, and I'm a gambling man. To turn in these keys, there's a chest over here, right at this ship. So I'm gonna run on over there. And maybe we shouldn't have used those keys there. We're down to 374k in the thing. With 3 Eddie plates, which brings us to roughly 400k total in 15 minutes for 1.6 mil per hour. But realistically, at this level, 1.6 mil per hour, pretty good. And you know, you could get luckier on those keys and get one of those teleport scrolls. Those are 500k each, and that could boost you over the 2 mil per hour mark. Definitely worthwhile if you're in like the 80s combat range. Last Man Standing is a PvP minigame where you face off in a series of 1v1 fights and receive points based off of your performance while trying to be the last man standing. This minigame can be really challenging. People are going to flame me for even putting it on here in the first place. It's really hard at first, but it's not only rewarding just from like a GP standpoint, it makes pretty good money, but it's just fun. To combat botting, there are some requirements to enter the minigame. You need a total level of either 750 with 30 quest points or 1500 total if for somehow you don't have 30 quest points by the time that you're 750 total. It's kind of weird, but anyways, to make money here, all you gotta do is play the minigame. You get points for kills and points for higher ranking within the game. At first, it might be easy to get discouraged, but if you stick with it, you're gonna improve really quickly, and hey, you're gonna get better at PvP. Maybe you like this, maybe you decide that you wanna start PKing in the main game too. To get here, super duper easy. All you need is a dueling ring, and then you're gonna go to the rub option, and it's gonna be Ferox Enclave, and it only is available in certain worlds. You're gonna wanna find one in the worlds with LMS competitive. If it's hard to find for you, you can use this little gear icon here and search for LMS. All you got to do once you're here, just join the main lobby in this ground floor here and start blasting. Before spending your points, make sure to check this page on the wiki that shows you the current GP per point ratio. There's a little nuance here though, as some of the weird shit here might show a higher dollar value per point, but nobody actually buys that on the GE, so it's a little bit skewed. I would avoid that type of stuff. Just stick with ornate mall handles, looting bad notes, and Trover parchment, since people actually buy all this stuff. The The blast furnace is available to you after the completion of the giant dwarf quest. You don't really have to finish it, but you really should. I recommend getting at least 15 smithing for iron, and a coal bag is going to double your GP per hour for everything steel and onwards. I also very strongly recommend having the ice gloves from the heroes quest. It's just going to make it so much more reclined. This method is one of my favorites, and it's featured in so many of my other videos because not only is the money great for the early game, it's also going to provide you with a ton of smithing experience, which is going to be very valuable throughout your journey. It's also one of those things that snowballs upon itself. It's going to open up better bars for you to make, which is going to lead to more profit and more experience. First, let's decide which bar you're going to make. I recommend just doing the best one you have access to, as currently the way the prices are, it's just going to give you the most experience and the most GP per hour. Heading over to the wiki here, here's the current experience and GP rates. These are all pretty high. The wiki tends to overestimate them a little bit. I would lower your expectations by 15 to 20%. Let's set up your inventory real quick. You're going to want to wear your best weight reducing clothes. Graceful is fantastic here. Coal bag in the inventory, and then if you have it, I recommend getting a ring of endurance. One other thing you should not overlook is the menu entry swapper plugin on RuneLite. I strongly recommend you get this. Go down to UI swaps. You're going to want to change this bank deposit shift click thing to eat, wield, etc. Change that one. And then while you're at it, let's just do object swaps to customizable left and shift click. We're going to do the same thing for item swaps as well. Customizable left click, customizable shift click. This is going to do a couple things for you. Once you have your coal bag in your inventory here, if I hold down my shift key, it's going to change from deposit one coal bag to fill my coal bag, meaning I can just left click and fill the coal bag full of coal just from there. No right click, no nothing. What this is also going to do is when you're in your inventory here and you have your coal bag, if I hold down shift, it changes from fill to empty. So we can just empty that right into our inventory. This is going to be very important later on. We'll get to that. The basic idea of the blast furnace is that we're going to be loading ore and coal into the conveyor belt and then collecting the bars. Repeat this over and over and over again for hours on end. Welcome to old school RuneScape. Not only is the blast furnace way faster to make bars than just traditional smithing, it also uses half as much coal. Before we start, one thing you're going to want to do is come down here to this coffer. You're going to want to put a few 100K in here. I put 200K in here, and we have 2 hours and 42 minutes. What this does is we're paying the workers to work the blast furnace for us. It's super cheap. You might as well do it. You're definitely going to make more than you're spending. Cool. Let's take you through one of these live. You're going to want to be on a designated blast furnace world. These high 490s are really good for that. You just want it to say blast furnace next to here. And what that does is you got these guys who are working the blast furnace, which if you don't have them, you have to have players doing it, and that's terrible. First thing we're going to do is you're going to want to locate your ores and put them in the same spot. Right here, I have my coal bag. I'm going to fill my coal bag, and then this first run, I'm going to do another thing of coal. And the reason for this is, if I just went with iron, the iron would be in the inventory, and I'd put the iron on the conveyor belt first here, and that would just make iron bars. So I want to preload it with coal, so make sure that it makes steel instead. After that, we're going to start doing our real runs, and this is just how they're going to be from now on. You're going to fill your coal bag, grab your iron ore, and just go right over to this conveyor belt here. And then we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to put our iron ore on there. We're going to empty our coal bag, put the coal on there, and then run over here. I like to run on this side. Click that, spacebar, and you're off to the races. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I could keep going on with these, but I think this video is long enough. If you did enjoy the video, if you got something out of it, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like that. I would love to work my way towards one of those beautiful 100K YouTube plaques some days. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.